Hello there and welcome to Laurence Plays Factorio Planetary Pioneers, the game with over 20 planets and over 30 science packs, of which we've got, like 4 of them, so it's a slow start, but we're getting there. In this episode I'm going to take a look at some of the researches we did in stream number 2, because it's nice to see what sort of tech we've been unlocking and work out how much of it happened when I wasn't paying attention and how much I've missed and would like to get on with. So yes, at the end of the first stream we discovered the planet of Norvis, which was quite exciting, and then we were able to go down there and discover that it has copper and it has iron, and these were both massive surprises because of course we weren't expecting any of this. And that unlocked for us electronics and steam power, and then on to red science. And then red science got us into all of the sort of things you expect to get early on in the game, and a few surprises as well, actually, looking at this. So let's go through these in a slightly more deliberate and organised order rather than just looking at what's popping up here on the main display, and we'll see what we've got. Interestingly, electronic circuits, or electronics in general, seem to be the first one we picked up, and that got us cables and circuits and normal labs. That was achieved by getting some copper, so that's how we did it without any labs. And then some basic inserters, that's quite nice to have, very early on with that, not needing to do any sort of logistics, and some pylons and some glass as well, because we needed the glass in order to get the labs. So yeah, that was a bit of a fairly important prerequisite there. Then we got onto steam power, which allowed us to basically get electricity up and working within the standard, simple, basic way with boilers and steam engines. It also got a sand production as well, which is interesting because that feels like a prerequisite to the glass required for the labs over here. So I guess we need to get both iron. Here we go. See, we made some hot iron plates and some hot copper plates. So we need to get both of those together before we're really ready to start actually doing proper researches with actual science packs. We can then skip forward over a few of these because these are all based on lignumian researches. And then we get onto automation, which is lovely, long-handled inserters, assembly machines. And these are assembly machines that run at an entire speed of 0.5 instead of the 0.25 that we're getting with the burner ones. So that was a nice upgrade. And of course, it doesn't require you to steadily feed them fuel as well. They can just run off electricity, which makes your logistics a lot easier. Got proper gun turrets, ones that are made out of metal rather than wood. We've got lamps, we've got military, so that gets us the submachine guns, shotguns, and appropriate ammunitions and whatnot. We then apparently discovered lignumis, but I'm pretty sure we got that one for free right at the beginning of the game, so we'll skip over that. And then walls, those are quite nice for defensive purposes. Text plates, steel text plates specifically, so we can start writing on the ground and saying Mike was here and that sort of other important notes like that. Ah yes, and then belts. These are wonderful 15 per second yellow transport belts. Thank goodness for that. After the wooden ones we were playing with on Lignumis, and when we first got down onto Norvis, going up to the glorious speed of a yellow belt was quite a relief. We've then got onto radars that once again aren't made of wood. These ones run off electricity, as is traditional, so that's fairly nice. And then again, a lot of these, yes, these are all just standard researches. You're probably very, very familiar with them, and things will get a little bit more exciting and a little bit more exotic when we get off to other planets, like Castra, apparently. We then picked up electric mining drills, lovely, so we can start digging things up a bit more quickly. Repair packs that aren't made out of wood. Fast inserters. That feels very early. I don't remember for sure, but I thought blue inserters were quite a bit further down the tech tree than just red science. But maybe I'm misremembering, or maybe the mods have stirred things up a little bit. We also got onto heavy armour. Once again, I'd have thought that would require a bit more as well. And nanobots. Oh, basic construction bots made out of copper. That's quite nice. So these ones are basically, they're exactly the same as the ones we were making out on Lignumis, except instead of being made out of gold, they're made out of copper. And so if I drop down a blueprint like this and then release the bots, you'll see that some of them are this fetching orange colour, some of them are more yellowy colour, and that's because, well, some of them are made out of copper and some are made out of gold, so it's quite nice. There's a little bit of a cosmetic difference between the two of them. I'm also entertained that my character is gently smoking because I'm using a burner generator in my suit here to produce the electricity for my personal roboport, and that's burning peat, and yes, I'm producing clouds of smoke as I do so. Carrying on, we've developed the steel axe so we can mine stuff a bit more quickly, and mining stuff includes buildings and belts and things like that, so it just makes deconstructing things a lot quicker. And we've got steel processing as well. That's rather nice. Very happy to see that because it allows us to move on. And then green science, lovely. We've improved the nanobots as well, speed and range. That's quite cool. I don't know how much we're going to use the nanobots because they do require us to make they do have to be made themselves, and then they fly out and do your bidding. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how much they get used. Military 2, so we've got on to better ammunition and grenades, lovely, which allows us to then get military science. So then we can, as you can see here, we can research all of this lovely military stuff, some of which I don't recognise yet and we'll learn about later. Getting onto green science also allows us to investigate the concept of assembly machine 2. Oh, and making steam science as well, so we can do that now in a better assembly machine if we want to do it a little bit more quickly, so that's lovely. I don't know if we'll ever do that, but in theory we could if we had some gold. So even with these machines, we can't do this on the ground, but potentially if we go back to Lignumis or bring the gold over to Norvis, if we did need more steam science packs, we'd be able to do that with this. Then that brings us on to the advanced material processing, so steel furnaces, which is going to allow us to massively speed up our furnace stacks. As I was talking about in a previous video, they're currently a little bit slower. They're not going too badly, and we can see that they are producing a solid yellow belt's worth of output here. But if we upgrade this to a red belt, and the same on the input side as well, and these to steel furnaces, then it'll stay nice and balanced, but we'll have twice the output, because these guys run at a speed of 1, and these guys run at a speed of 2. Which is more, so that's going to be useful. We've invented trains and railway systems, which is going to be really nice. I'm looking forward to getting some trains out because we've got some very silly, rather long belts bimbling about all over our base at the moment. So yeah, getting that up to a decent speed will be very nice. And in order to get that, we need to come up with engines. But engines also gets us electric crushers, and that's going to be really nice for pulverising all the ore down to get us that lovely 26% and later to be increased bonus out of it from crushing it first and then processing it. So getting those up and running is going to be really good, and that's something that's new with the mods. Gates for getting through walls, lovely. Big pylons so we can run electricity around a little bit more easily, and also the medium ones so we can have a little bit more coverage, and it makes things a little bit easier. No substations yet, but I'm sure those will come sooner or later. That looks like a blue research to me, so we'll get those eventually. We've got ore crushing researched as well, so as I was mentioned, talking about the ore crushing just now, but this allows us to crush the iron ore and the copper ore, and then cook crushed iron ore into hot plates and crush copper ore into also hot copper plates. So we'll be able to get that up and running, and as I say, that's going to give us a bit more productivity. That's going to be really useful. Automated rail transportation, so we're going to get signals out of stations and signals out of this. That's going to be really, really useful. I'm kind of surprised that we didn't get stations with the original railway research, but I guess that's just go and play with trains. So yeah, a little bit different. And also, what's this? A manual colour module. Interesting. Oh, I see. It's a module you can put in a train to stop it being painted automatically when it's based on what it's carrying. So we have a mod installed that will automatically recolour a train based on it's either what it's carrying or the colour of the station it's going to. I forget which way round. One depends on the other, but I can't remember which way round it is. And this is a module that presumably stops the train getting repainted automatically when it gets loaded up or is going to go somewhere. And I've been talking about red belts a bit, but we've also researched those. So we've had 2 steps up in the belt speed in the last stream, going from brown to yellow and then yellow up to red. So that'll be really nice. How many of these will actually upgrade remains to be seen. But we'll go through, I guess, doing the ones that are having problems first, and then maybe just slapping an upgrade planner over the whole lot once we've got a crazy, crazy number of these available. And finally, we have nano explosives, and this is something I was talking about in the last video, which allows you to mark cliffs for deconstruction, or allows cliffs to be deconstructed by the nanobots, and that's really rather useful. As you saw previously, we're going to be able to blow them up. It does have to be done with nanobots rather than millibots, which I guess is what the construction bots are, or killer bots, which are the little ones that follow you around shooting biters. So it's a little bit manual and does require somebody to be on site, but for those really important or really aggravating cliffs, this is going to be fantastically useful to have. And that is all of the research we've done. Finding the ones that we've done is going to be a little more complicated next time, but we have a cunning plan to deal with that, which I shall talk about in the next one of these research updates. And now it's time to get a little bit philosophical. One of the things I've been trying to do with these videos is touch on how people have sort of felt, what their opinions and thoughts have been during the stream. So we start off with Mike today. He's commented, much as I was saying earlier, that this is much more the Factorio we know and love, but with the slightly extended telescopic recipes, which he also likes. And he thinks that some of them are a little bit odd and perhaps could be more telescopic. And I pointed out the assembly machines over here. He picked on the long-handled inserters. So I guess he thinks that the red inserters should be made from the wooden long-handed inserters rather than going via the yellow ones and over this way. Which I mean, would make sense either way round, but yeah, it's just different possibilities. He's also been enjoying having a planet manager with Marc telling us what he'd like us to get on and do. He thinks it's been working quite well, and so whilst he did have a couple of times when he wasn't sure what to be doing, that's mostly he said that's mostly down to him not really asking for more things to do as quickly as he should have done because he was feeling a bit tired, or being on mute apparently. There were one or two misunderstandings, but basically it's been working pretty well. And he's looking forward to seeing how it goes as we all get a bit more into it, especially as we start working on slightly more complicated builds. So instead of Mark saying, yes, could you go and set up an iron mine, please? He'll say, could you go and set up a yellow science production facility, or could you go off and set up some rocket silos, or something like that. So that's going to make it a bit more complicated, and it'll mean that he'll set a task, and then that person can go off and do it, and that will actually free up some time for Mark himself, because he won't be being asked by people all the time what he wants them to do next, because they'll be doing projects that will take them a bit longer. So that should give him a bit more time to actually play Factorio rather than play Manager. And that ties into what Mark was saying, that he's very much only did minor stuff. He's kept quite busy keeping track of everything that was going on. Having a lot, and he also commented that as well, having a lot of starter gear that we brought down from Lignumus with us helped an enormous amount. So we had all the gear to set up some of these mines and smelter arrays and so on, and all the belts and things. We brought them down with us, so it made getting started a lot easier. And he says he thinks it helped with communication, or at least that it helped us actually remember to communicate with each other rather than just disappearing into our own little worlds. and he quite enjoyed it and had fun managing everything. Mark was very good at keeping the task list updated. So we have this system here that tells us about what's going on. So we've got okay, the main boss is something that's probably almost never going to finish, and so is defense. But we've got instructions down here. All these you can see all the things down here and who did what. So it gives us an idea of what's been going on. And Mark was deliberately keeping this very much up to date, partly for his own benefit, so that he could tell what people needed to do and what tasks to assign to people, but also for my sake when I come along to make the videos, because having this was very, very useful. It allowed me to sort of basically note all the text down from in here, and then who did it, and set that up in a document for us to make our notes on, and to make sure we knew what had been going on. In theory, it would have been very effective for us for those of us who weren't managing to come along and have a look at and pick up tasks and say, would you like me to take this task? Unfortunately, it seems we're just not very good at that sort of thing, so we mostly didn't, but we just asked what he wanted us to do. I don't know why some of them have got lights on. Oh, I see, they're the ones that have been supposedly started. And most of the time we've just been ticking stuff off rather than when it's done, rather than saying, yes, I am working on this. But never mind. Mark also noted that he found it a little bit awkward sometimes to be giving out some of the uncool jobs, like putting in a new mine or going out and dealing with biters or expanding defences, because Factorio is very much a building game, so that's sort of, you kind of want to build new exciting stuff on the bus rather than run a long belt or go out and deal with biters. That said, I was quite happy doing the mine setting them up, but maybe if I had been putting in 3 times as many drills here and 3 times as many belts, then it might have got a little bit old. I don't know. But as it was, it worked quite well from my point of view. We did run into a bit of a circular problem in that we needed to get more iron, because we've been very, very short of iron the whole time, which meant we needed to come up and tap this patch or this patch. But there were a lot of biters up here, which meant we needed to come in and put in defences. But we kind of needed the iron to get the defences working. So it was that traditional sort of circular problem. But we did manage to scrape together enough turrets and enough ammunition to get things going. But you might notice that this belt here has been feeding ammunition up basically the whole through a lot of the stream and through this entire video. And, well, we've got enough on here that, yes, the turrets are fully supplied, but it hasn't backed up all the way down to the factory yet. And so if we do any further expansions, that's all just going to disappear very, very quickly. I talked about the resource monitor mod a bit in the previous in the introductory videos, and now we're actually using it properly. I can show you it properly. So these are all of our ore patches. We've got a stone, coal, a couple of iron, and a copper one there, another stone, and another coal, and it tells us how much of the patch is remaining. By percentage and by quantity, how fast we're getting through it, and how long it's going to last at our current consumption rate. So, for example, this stone patch, presumably the starter one, that's going to run out in just over 2 hours, and so it's shown in red because that's a bit of a concern. The coal patch, however, the new coal patch up here, that's going to last for ages because, well, there aren't very enough drills on it at the moment. That's going to last for 5 days before it runs out. Now, it's actually not going to be that long because we've only got a few mining drills on it. We're not covering the entire patch, but it's useful information to know that we've got plenty of supply there. Now, as we put more drills on it and as we start to use it up a bit faster, these numbers are going to drop, so they're going to dynamically adjust based on the rate we're using it up at. But they're very, very useful for us to take a glance at. And then we've got the totals at the top as well. So this shows for each of the resources how long it's going to last for. So copper is actually going to be a problem in not all that long. The rest of it we have a decent amount of it, so we're not too worried about those. I suspect that copper is going to be a problem for its throughput rate before it becomes a problem for its the amount that's actually in the patch. I think we're going to get to the point where we can't pull it out of here fast enough before this patch actually runs out. Safir also enjoyed the planet manager system we had running, because it meant he didn't need to worry too much about the big picture, at least not on this planet. Maybe the next planet. No, the next planet isn't going to be his, but maybe the one after will be. We shall see. So he enjoyed being able to just sort of work on a small thing, whether it's a smelting array down here or some buildings up here. Whatever it was, he was able to just sort of get stuck in on that small, single, individual build, and he quite enjoyed that. He found it interesting and made it a nice change from normal Factorio, where you're responsible for absolutely everything. He did say we ended up doing quite a lot of handcrafting when we arrived, so despite what we were saying about dropping in lots and lots of useful stuff from Lignumis, we could have done with dropping in quite a lot more useful stuff from Lignumis and planning a little bit better, but then a lot of it was, we didn't really, it's hard to know how many belts you're going to need until you get there. It's hard to know how many mining drills, how many furnaces and so on, so we guessed a bit, and then we topped up the things we ran out of very, very quickly, so it was a help, but it wasn't a sort of a complete, okay, here's all the stuff we need for our first 3 hours of Factorio. He's also looking forward to getting the crushing added to the smelting down here, and I think, yes, that is going to make an enormous difference, because we're going to get so much more resource coming through. And yes, you can see the hot plates coming out over here as well, isn't that nice? Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel so you see next week's videos when they come out, and also we'll be back streaming some more of this on Monday. I'll be back on Wednesday for my solo stream of The Last Starship as well. And if you're interested in playing along in your own version of our universe, well, you can start off with the seed 11111 and either copy the mods out of the list in the description, or if you're a channel supporter, there's a save game from the beginning of our run which you can just grab, download, and clone against, and start playing from there. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the stream. Mike has some good advice on the showing up made out of trees over here. So he's been writing in trees. What an odd thing to do. So yes, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on everything else that comes out in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.